Hello, everyone. My name is AJ Kuftik. I'm Principal Technologist with Expedient. I want to thank you for joining us today. Today with us, we have Matt Morris from Kappler, and we have Danielle Holt from RebDev. And we're going to talk through kind of what Kappler went through as part of moving on to the Expedient platform and how we at Expedient were able to help Matt. So Matt, welcome. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Danielle, how are you today as well?
I'm great, thank you.
So first question here is for Matt. Can you give a brief explainer on, who Kappler is and what you guys, work on as an overall organization?
Yeah. So Kappler's been in business for over 44 years. We are a manufacturing company in Northeast Alabama, a little bit outside of Huntsville. Most people have heard of it. We're in Lake Gunnersville, Alabama, and we manufacture hazmat and chemical protective clothing and apparel. We hold 26 patents in this industry and are very proud of our research and development and our technologies we integrate into our suits, and the fact that we get to keep people protected.
So when you guys were looking at building out, your next sort of system and, what that sort of looked like, Danielle, how did Kappler come to you, and how did that sort of play into, what you guys looked at with Expedient?
Sure. So I got introduced to Kappler because they had started a Sage X3 ERP implementation. Sage X3 is an enterprise level ERP system, which has some high requirements in availability to the business, obviously, as well as the security of the data and ensuring that the data has high performing servers. And then, of course, as we upgrade and make changes, it needs the ability to be maintained, be backed up, be restored if necessary. So I got involved with Matt and the Kappler team as they were implementing X3. And Matt started asking me about doing disaster recovery and what that should look like for an enterprise level system. We immediately thought of Expedient because you guys make it so easy for people to get involved in having a secure enterprise platform.
So, and then kind of, Matt, can you kind of talk through what you went through with the, kind of looking at it from a production side and a DR side? Like when you guys were looking at Expedient for DR, what, kind of what was going through your mind when you were seeing our platform?
Mostly the familiarity with VMware and things like that. It kind of made me feel a lot more comfortable in not having to spend a whole lot of time in researching and trying to understand a whole new system. It wasn't another appliance that we had to install here and configure. We worked very closely with the Expedient team. They did a phenomenal job of making sure that every step of the process was covered. And if I had questions, they had an expert that was able to answer those questions as we went through this whole process. And really from the time we were able to get our side configured with the VPN connection, everything, we were live within 30 days, which to me is a very quick turnaround. Especially for a disaster recovery solution that we were looking for, that allowed us the comfort level of making sure that our data was protected and accessible when we needed it. That was some of the biggest driving factors for me in choosing Expedient with this process.
So as you guys were looking at Expedient for disaster recovery, did it change your mind as you started to see some of the additional platforms that we had available to you?
It absolutely did. The backup and recovery points with the Cohesity program, that has been huge for me in being able to go down to a granular level, the actual file level, and recover a single file versus having to do restore points on full servers or file, large files or anything like that. I can go down to a single point, grab that single file, restore it. Like I said, that's been huge for me several times. With some of our critical data that we have, the ability to manage everything on my own. There's a lot of self-help tools that Expedient provides, including a knowledge base that has a wealth of information in it. As with the Cohesity side, the EEC, the platforms are very intuitive, very user-friendly, very easy to understand. And the support has been huge. If I've had to reach out, I get somebody who responds within a few hours, and they either have a resolution or they have an idea of what's going on and can help walk me through that process. They're real big on getting you to be able to be self-sustaining, which I appreciate, because the more I can do, the better off I am and the better off my company is. And so I've always appreciated that approach of, we can do it, but here's the information you need to know how to do this. They always seem to point in that direction.
Well, and Matt, your original request when we started working together on this was purely a DR solution, but you ended up doing the reverse of the original plan, right?
I did. We found that there was most companies offer a one size fit all, and the one size doesn't exactly fit all. So with Expedient, they came to the table with multiple options. The option we were looking at was, we would be the production site. We would take the production data, write it off-site somewhere, have it accessible if we ever went down or lost our data center here on-prem. And we ended up choosing a model that would allow us to run a hybrid. So Expedient will host a lot of our production servers, but we write the data back to our data center here. And we did that because we have generators that run and our network stays operational even without power. And we could operate at full capacity as far as network goes without power. So the ability to have our production on much better equipment than we have in-house, but have it right back to in-house and have it accessible, was a perfect fit for what we needed. So it completely changed from, we need to write it off site, we need to have it protected and accessible when we need it, to let's move it off site, keep production out there at Expedient, and then write it back in-house as DR. So the one size fit all was not what Expedient came to the table with. They came to the table with multiple options, presented it, and gave us a direction and a choice on which way we wanted to go, which really changed my mindset on how DR and business continuity can be handled in a manner that protected my company.
So how much effort are you now doing to actually maintain and manage your environment? Because now you've moved all that into Expedient. So now you're basically just managing your DR environment. How much effort are you now putting forward to maintain that compared to what you were doing before when it was the full production?
Right now, very little. A lot of that is all handled through the Expedient expertise. The backups are run. We have them set on a schedule. We have the product that is the intermediary between Expedient and Kappler, that we have the jobs already established. They run on a nightly basis. I can get updates, logs, reports, anything I need to know to make sure that everything is running optimally. If there is an issue, we can troubleshoot it, find out what happened, fix it, and kick it off. And we don't have an impact to production, which is huge, because we can't afford to have downtime. As Danielle was saying, Sage X3 is our ERP system, and every person in this company has a piece in X3, from production tracking to sales to financials, IT. Everybody has a piece in it. It literally runs the entire company, and we can't afford to have downtime with that. And with Expedient, we have not had that experience, which has been fantastic.
So is there anything that Expedient's enabled that was harder for you to do in an on-prem environment?
Absolutely. The backup situation, we were looking at the best route to go. We had an antiquated way of doing backups, and when we started looking at the cost of what it would take to run those backups, move them around, do what we need to do to get it out there, the Expedient whole package that we got really took that burden off of me. And it made it to where, okay, I don't have to worry about checking backups every night. I don't have to worry about, did this backup run? Everything is fully automated, and we can pull the reports if we need them. But I'm very comfortable in knowing that the jobs are being run and processed. We do spot check them from time to time just for validation, and it has always been successful. And I actually set up email reports to get emailed every morning to show what jobs are in, what the outcome was. And so that way I keep my logs I've gotten to the point where I don't even check those most of the time. I'm just like, all right, it ran, I'm good.
I mean, that's the best way to go. It's the best way to see it. It's like, that's
Sorry,
great.
I have automatic lights and they turn off. I'm
Look at
behind
that's the
monitor.
level of automation that Kappler has. Even the lights are automated. We have
have
automated backups. We got automated lighting. DR's powered. Done.
Yes.
Great job, Kappler. So Danielle, you mentioned that you brought in around a Sage 3 deployment, and obviously you guys are a Sage 3 overall consultant. Have you been doing this a number of other times, not just with Kappler, but with other customers that use Sage X3?
We do it quite often, actually. So Sage X3 is generally sold to manufacturing companies, also food distribution companies, but they generally deal in a stage in their business where they're growing and they've picked a new ERP system. X3 is usually more than they expected. So they're moving off of QuickBooks or spreadsheets. Matt's shaking his head, yes, this is a lot more than we expected it was going to be. And it's great, and it's meant to grow with your system and grow with your business, but that brings a level of management to the IT staff. You have to manage a SQL Server database. X3 has like 6 different components that are their own Windows services that have to run in order to keep this entire system working together. And in Matt's situation, that's 2 different servers. One to run the database and the application, one to run the web components and the presentation layer to the users. Understanding that and understanding the maintenance that's involved in that, and then of course keeping up to date with the patches and the updates from Sage to get the new features, to keep your system secure. Those types of management solutions are usually very hard for a company that has an IT staff of 1 or 2 people. Right. And when I met Matt and his friend Anthony were the only 2 IT people at Kappler. Bringing in a system like X3 to a 2 IT person staff is a big change. And so I generally find myself recommending, hey, you guys didn't sign up for this. Your business went and picked an ERP system. Nobody asked you what you wanted to do or how you wanted to manage that. So put it in a place where it's safe. Put it in a place where you don't have to learn how to manage all of these things yourself, because you're still doing the help desk. You're still doing the business management. And oh, by the way, we have to implement this system. And there's a lot of work involved there that's more value added to your company than making sure the servers are running. Let somebody else make sure the servers are running, right? And so I have this conversation all the time, just so that people can understand there's a better option than trying to learn how to maintain this system.
So in kind of like summarizing this, you guys have spent a lot of time in migrating all of this over. And Matt, kind of, can you talk me through like how that migration actually went for you moving your stuff from on-prem? So now all of your production is now running inside of EEC, correct?
Most of all of our production is. We do have a few small servers in-house still, such as like print servers and just kind of a IT utility server. Stuff that if we lost it, it wouldn't, kneecap the business, so to speak. Anything that is a business critical server, X3, obviously, that is a business critical server. Our HR system, anything like that, where we wanted the additional security, we wanted the additional backups and the ability to work with those systems. We had to have the access to those no matter the situation. I mean, living in Alabama, we are in Tornado Alley. Unfortunately, we do have tornadoes that come through here. We have sustained damage where, it was a little closer than we wanted it to be. And every time I heard thunder, I was not sleeping because I didn't know what was going to happen. So it was one of those situations where I can actually sleep at night knowing, okay, the data is backed up. It is in another geographical location, and it's not something I have to worry about. If it goes down, we have the ability to have the restoration either somewhere within the same facility with Expedient, or worst case, if they lost a data center, we have the ability to spin up at another one. So that the comfort level has definitely increased and allowed me some flexibility with my time schedule and having to check on things and making sure that I'm comfortable with where we are. And so the DR solution, so with X3 being there, We've also been able to add in, a web store and a few other things that's allowing us to grow as a company, which is good. We are not a technology company, and trying to get people to use technology here is a challenge at best, and trying to get them to understand that technology changes daily. And so not having to make large investments into servers and data stores and upgrades on the data center, it was an easy transition to move that. And we picked an evening after hours. We had non-servers that we picked that were business critical, and we had everything transitioned in about an hour and a half. And that was from shutdown from Kappler side, spun up on the Expedient side, and fully operational. That transfer time, I was calculating 2 o'clock in the morning because I know how it is.
Yeah.
Trying to move data and servers, especially some of our larger ones like X3. I mean, that's 2 huge servers, but we had everything spun up and ready to go in a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah, and that's the sort of work that we do, especially on the delivery side with, working with you on your timeline. We don't just say, hey, we're moving all your stuff on, Saturday at 4 p.m. and that's just the way it's going to be. We work with you on doing those migrations. So I do want to thank everyone for entering these questions. We have a bunch of really great questions in here. And if you want to be entered into the drawing to win a pair of Dr. Dre Pro Beats headphones, Power Beats Pro headphones, excuse me, go ahead and get those questions in. Matt, did you look at any other competitors before coming on board with us? How much due diligence did you do with us, and what was really that deciding factor? I think you kind of answered that, but.
Yeah, actually, I looked at about 5 different products. Some were on-prem appliances, some were services where they controlled everything, the backups and the validate and everything. And I spent better part of 6 months researching and vetting out multiple vendors or options. And like I said, it was a discussion with Danielle where she said, hey, I know somebody, they work at Expedient, they have data centers, they offer a ton of different things. Would you like to talk to them? And I was getting very close to making my decision when she said this. And I was like, oh, come on, one more. But I'm glad she did. Because
we appreciate that, Danielle.
Yeah, it's Danielle's fault. But it ended up being a game changer for us. Again, it wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It was, okay, here's what we're hearing from you. Here's what we think you need. You tell us what you really need, though. But they were not shy about making suggestions or options. They worked with us on trying to make sure we had the right fit as far as the capacity, as far as RAM and disk size and all the options that were there. And that made a huge difference. And well, we got this appliance, we'll install it and set everything up. That didn't give me the comfort level I was looking for. So like I said, it definitely was a game changer in Danielle approaching us and saying, here, talk to these guys.
We appreciate that. There was a number of questions here around cost and cost benefits. Can you kind of talk through, I know that we had mentioned, you and I and Danielle had talked in the past around cost, but in terms of like the actual value and the ROI back to the business, can you kind of talk through that a little bit?
Sure. So I'll be honest, Expedient was not the cheapest option. But then again, I can't put a dollar figure on knowing that my data is protected. Multiple ways as well. There's multi-layer authentication just to be able to log into the system as the administrator. That's huge. The Cohesity backup program, that, like I said, that has been a lifesaver multiple times with critical files. Being able,
not like you've had to use that backup tool recently to restore years and years of a product history? No.
Yeah, a 12-year-old file that holds all of our engineering prototypes that someone accidentally deleted, who has now had their access revoked. But that's a different story.
By the way, there was a question in there about how many times have you been asked to restore. Danielle, how many times have you asked him to restore things?
To be honest, It's been fantastic because we can try experimental fixes and I can go, okay, Matt, I'm going to try this. You guys need to be off the system Friday night. Stand by in case I need you to put it back. And Matt's had to put it back 2 times in the same night. Third time was a charm. It was golden after that. But, you know, we were able to try something and resolve an issue faster because I could try it in production and make sure it solved the problem with the safety net, knowing that I can call Matt. And he made it sound like there was a lot of work involved. I don't think it was that hard because he replied to my email way too fast. Yeah.
What's up with that studying? I worked really hard on this. No, I mean, the VM platform with the virtual machines, being able to take snapshots, you know, as Danielle pointed out, you know, we don't know if it's going to work or not. We need to try it and see. And so we'll grab some snapshots and we'll test it. And okay, that bombed. Let's set it back. You know, within a matter of minutes, we're back operational to where we were at that restore point. So again, you can't do that with every system. And the comfort level is the huge return on investment for me, from the IT system admin side to, you know, being able to protect the company. If something were to happen, our data is protected. So, and the options that go along with that. So we can take bits and pieces of it, or we can take the whole thing and we can say, okay, here, let's just restore the database. Or, hey, let's just restore the whole server. Everything bombed and we got to fix that. So I will say again, you know, it wasn't the cheapest option, no, but it was the best option. And sometimes the best options are not cheap, you know, but the return you get for the investment you're making as a customer is something you really can't put that value on, because data and the data that runs companies is vital. And without that, if something were to happen, we would be out of business. And I can't let something like that happen.
Did you look at any of the hyperscalers at all? And are you using any hyperscale services, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, that sort of thing?
We are using AWS for a few small projects that we're working on. However, the comfort level with that was not where I wanted it to be. We have an app that we build and run here. So we use that for our app so that we can deploy it and don't have to open a whole bunch of things on the firewall and a whole bunch of headache to go along with that. We can store it out there. But I didn't have the hand holding, so to speak, that I had with the Expedient project group. You know, the technical expertise, the project manager we had was phenomenal. The meetings where we were able to discuss and see what the project plan was going to be and the timelines and everything. I didn't get that with AWS. I have worked with Azure some. It was very, in my opinion, cumbersome to navigate and figure out. The platform at Expedient has been very, like I said, intuitive. It's very user friendly. The knowledge base is phenomenal. I had to use it multiple times, and then when I couldn't find the answer, I had a support number I could call, and I could get a person on the phone who could help walk me through the situation. And we've actually had that multiple times where we've had an item pop up. We couldn't find the answer, but having someone to call or even a help desk email to say, hey, here's where we're at, here's the screenshots, here's what I'm doing. And they call and they walk us through how to resolve the situation. The support is phenomenal. There's no other way to put it. I'm one of those people that everybody will buy a name, but I always look at what's the support behind it. With technology, mechanical items, anything like that, it's not a matter of if it breaks, it's when it breaks. And I need to know that whoever I'm working with as a business partner is going to be there to help support. And that's really how I make my decisions. And some of the companies that I reached out to as referrals with Expedient are like, no, we love their support desk. And that to me makes a huge difference for making a decision as a decision maker for the company.
Hey, shout out to our entire operations services center, or our entire operations service center. Y'all are great.
They do a great job.
Giving you all a specific shout out for this one.
I've got clients that have run AWS and Azure platforms, but they've also had to have an expert on staff in those platforms that all they do is maintain them. And so it creates an extra level of overhead. They don't necessarily have that direct phone number for somebody to call when things go bad, right? Life is great when things are running, or it's new and they get time to deploy it. But when something's really broken and not working, it's a lot harder to get a hold of somebody to get that extra help, or get to that expert level assistance. You have to go through the call desk and the level 1 support guy who asks all the basic Q&A questions. And you're like, my system's down right now. I don't have time for this. So the experience there has been harder just because there's so many different layers to get through, which you don't have those layers with Expedient. You have that person that you can get to. And when you say, I've tried everything I could, I'm past that point, they listen to you and move forward, right? It makes a big difference. We had to do a network trace trying to sync 2 systems. We had the same sync happening in AWS, and it took us 3 weeks to figure out that while the person that we told to whitelist some IP addresses hadn't actually done all the IP addresses. They transposed one of the numbers. It's a human mistake, right? But when you asked them, is it right? They went, yeah, it's right. I did what I was told. Okay, great. We had the same problem at Kappler as we were bringing in their web store integration and need to sync data between X3 and the web store. And, same conversation. This system can't talk to this system. The 2 aren't communicating. They should be. What's the problem? We were able to resolve it much faster because we got a human on the Expedient side who jumped on board, and we were able to press the sync button, and he was watching what was going on the network to see, oh, wait, you're calling this other IP address that wasn't on my list. Great, problem solved. Just the speed at which that was being able to be troubleshooted, you can't do in AWS and Azure without an expert at that level, if that makes sense.
Right.
I think for that IP issue, we had a full resolution. Everything was operational in less than 30 minutes on the phone call.
AJ, you've just gone mute.
Yeah,
the button. Press it. So Matt, you had mentioned the migration and how it only took an hour. There were a number of questions around, kind of the technology and the process and how much data you were actually moving, connectivity. So can you kind of walk us through the overall, what that migration looked like?
Yeah, so we set up with the operations team as we were going through, and we had built the project plan and had started putting some of the preliminary items in place to start copying the data over. Using a product called Zerto, we were able to connect in with Expedient, and we're able to start pointing servers over to that. We moved just under 6 terabytes of data and had everything operational. Like I said, IP mapping, everything done. I think the longest point in time it took was to set up the VPN. We took about a week because we had to reach out to several vendors to get everything established. Once the VPN was established, we were able to kind of take small steps. It wasn't huge chunks at a time. Like I said, we set up the Zerto communication in between, and we started writing the data over slowly as we were able to get some servers, and then we just started spinning them up. And the total time, like I said, for the spin up to get everything online and operational, validated, tested was just at an hour and a half. So the moving of the data using the product that Expedient provided was very simple. We were able, like I said, after the VPN established, got that done, got Zerto connected, got the servers pointed, and started just trickling data over. As there were changes, the data would write every night. And we did one final push of the differentials for the data. Took just a few minutes on each server, and we were able to hit go.
Matt, is there anything you would have done differently? There's a number of questions around, what would you have done differently looking back at it, top 3 things that, you kind of look back at and say, ooh, wish we would have done something slightly different.
I wish I would have bought more RAM at the time. I'll be honest. We kind of took the base of what we had here with our capacities and our virtual environments, and kind of went, okay, we can move it over with what we got. Knowing that RAM is cheap, and I've actually have purchased a little more. We've actually grown with Expedient. We started out with 6 servers and we're up to 9 servers now. So we have migrated some additional items over. We've actually spun up a few different systems. Again, anything that's been deemed business critical, we're putting at Expedient because we have older equipment here in our data center, and I'm not comfortable with running anything that's going to be operational for the company here. We will be making a few upgrades here and there within our data center and making some improvements, but with Expedient, I don't have to make such drastic changes. I don't have to buy 3 new servers. I don't have to buy such a large data store. I've got to have, it's giving me flexibility to go, okay, I can push this over to Expedient. I've got a little room now. I can wiggle, or hey, I need to buy some more RAM and some more hard drive space. And the flexibility, it doesn't hurt to have that kind of flexibility. You're not locked into, well, this is what you bought, this is all you get. It's, hey, you need more, we can get you more. That's not a problem. And we have exercised that on several occasions. So I undersized what we originally needed. So I probably would have listened a little bit better to the operations team and said, yeah, let's throw a few more sticks of RAM at this server, or, let's increase the capacity of this server to make my life easier. But I was trying to go, okay, well, I'm trying to stick within this budget. I'm trying to do this, trying to do that. And it didn't hurt us, but it didn't help us. But we were able, like I said, to grow and expand, and we've added those 3 additional servers now. We've brought some additional systems online, and it's a very simple process.
So I see a number of questions that are kind of just to Expedient. Do we provide disaster recovery services and offsite backups? Absolutely. Matt is leveraging our disaster recovery solution. He's also utilizing our backup solution. We have a number of customers who are replicating their backups from on-prem into us. So we have a number of those services as well. The backups are immutable, so they are written and then journaled. So there's not a way for you to kind of go in there and mess with the backups. That's all done with the Cohesity platform. Danielle, there was a question here about SQL Express or full SQL. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it was full SQL.
Full SQL, absolutely.
Man, Matt, living big over there, bud. Got the full SQL license.
We have 5 different SQL servers. So
Danielle, you work with a lot of smaller organizations. What do you think, and I'm going to ask the same question to Matt, what is the single biggest value proposition for Expedient services for like an SMB or a startup?
I think the ability to hand off the day-to-day maintenance and management of the servers themselves, and knowing that you have immediately everything your enterprise needs. You have a virtual environment, you have management services of that virtual environment, and you can have a disaster recovery plan in place without you having to be an expert in all of those things, is the biggest thing that I would say is the advantage that I send everybody to Expedient for.
And Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the flexibility and the options that are provided. As I said, with Expedient, we had 3 options that we could have really picked from, and I could have really catered it to any direction I wanted. With all the different options and all the different items that Expedient offers, we looked at the 3 key ones, which was if we want to run production right off-site with the backup system to Expedient, we had that option. We had moving everything to Expedient, letting them run production and us connecting into them. Or the option I picked, which was make Expedient production and us the DR site. And then we also looked at the backup solutions. There's a ton of different options, the flexibility, the scalability. But the thing I liked is I am still responsible for the operation of my servers, which means I still have to run the Windows updates. I still get to apply any patching or anything like that because we don't know what's going to break a system and what won't until we test it. I didn't want to hand that part off. I wanted to be able to review any of the new patches coming out and go, okay, no, we don't need to apply this one. Not that I didn't trust Expedient to do that, but I know my system better than Expedient would. And so that option of, yeah, it's housed here, but you own it. It's yours. You run it. You do what you need to with it. All we're doing is hosting it. And so that level of trust and comfort for me was huge because I was able to go, okay, good. I don't have to worry about, patches or anything like that. We get to control that still. So it's a very hands-on but hands-off approach, and it's yours. You own it. You run it. We just keep it here, and we'll take care of the backups. We'll take care of getting you access to what you need and handing it off to you so that you can run with it.
So we talked about the fact that you have some things on-prem and some things in EEC. How are you handling that from a decision standpoint on what to move and what not to move? And then how are you handling IP addressing for those as well?
So the decision is how many people actually touch the system. If this is a business critical system that could impact the company or cause the company to have major financial issues, we put it at Expedient. Like I said, we had our HR system there, our time and attendance system. We actually have a domain controller up there. Our cutting program, because we are a cut and sew, company. We do in the manufacturing here. All of our patterns, those are proprietary, and we can't operate without those. So anything that could bring the company to a halt, we have at Expedient. So our lesser used, like I said, print servers, we have an IT utility server, we have a backup domain controller, things like that. Those are the items we kept in house. They're important, but if we lost one, it wouldn't bring us to a halt. We could still operate. As far as the IP controls through the VPN that we share with Expedient, which point, all we did is we mapped a different subsection of the IP address. And so instead of doing a .21 address, we did a .31 in one of the subs. And it's mapped, it's very easy, and it makes it very easy to find because I only had to change that one small section in order for it to be operational over there. And sorry, my light keeps cutting out on me.
That's how comfortable Matt is.
Efficiency. And again, I worked with systems engineers to kind of walk through this whole process, and we went through and we just changed the subs and had everything spun up, and it was a very easy process.
Is there, if you or Matt, Danielle, if either one of you were working for, you guys both work for fairly small companies now, would you have leveraged similar choices for digital transformation, or would you maybe look at different cloud or SaaS options?
I'll take that one first. I would not change anything. Even if it was a larger company, I think the people inside the company know their business. From an ERP standpoint, the value add of the employees in the company is understanding their business and being able to tailor the technology to best fit their needs, and spending the time on those value added activities versus the regular boring maintenance type things. Think about the hard stuff that's unique to your business. That applies whether it's a small company or a big company. So I'd give you the same answer.
Yeah, and kind of jump on the tail end of that. Kappler is a small company. We have about 175 employees, and we have 2 IT people. And So we get the ERP implementation completed, which IT was responsible for. We still try to maintain our day-to-day operations, our help desk, troubleshooting, any of that stuff. We were still responsible for networking and connectivity and VPNs and printers and everything else that goes along with an IT organization. The both of us were still responsible for that. And so being able to, quote unquote, lighten the load of our data center and our systems administration and things like that to not have to worry so much, what was a very nice thing because we don't have the resources. We are trying to grow and expand the IT department, but I don't think that's going to change how we operate as far as with Expedient, because we could have 5 people and we're still going to be in lack of resources because we handle everything for the business side of the company. So being able to kind of go, okay, I know that part's handled. I don't have to focus. I don't have to worry. I don't have to stress. It's done. I can verify that it's done. I get the verifications. I validate everything. It makes it a lot easier on me personally and me professionally, to not have that stress.
So, and we appreciate your time, Matt, and Danielle's time. We're 11 minutes over, but we do appreciate all the questions from the audience. Ben Vlietstra is the winner of the headphones. Karen will be reaching out to you, Ben, so congratulations on that. If you have any questions around Expedient services, please reach out to me at aj.kuftick@expedient.com. Matt and Danielle, thank you so much for all of your time, and we hope to speak with you and the rest of the audience in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.